Brian Bledsoe of Brian Bledsoe Weather joining us this week. And Brian, we saw some rain move across Nebraska and parts of the Midwest this week that hadn't seen rain in weeks. And we are starting to see some flash drought as a result. But some of those storms this week bringing hail. And what I've been so shocked by, Brian, is parts of the plains getting these isolated storms that drop torrential flooding rains in areas.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyne. This has really been one of those things where we've got the haves and the have-nots. And we see this all the time in the midsection of the country, off and on throughout the year. But if we look at what we've seen in terms of precipitation anomalies for the past 30 days, we'll start out on the western half of the country, first of all. And you can see we've had dryness in western Washington and Oregon. We've had decent moisture associated with somewhat of a monsoon signal extending from southwest Arizona northward into Idaho. But really, some of the wettest places in the region have been from southeast Wyoming, western Nebraska, eastern Colorado, down into parts of New Mexico. And if we expand that to the east a little bit and we look at the center portion of the United States, you really get a feel for how wet it's been recently, from southern parts of North Dakota all the way through most of South Dakota, minus the far southeast corner, and right down through portions of Kansas and into the panhandles. The real have-nots have been out here across the majority of the Corn Belt. I know that that's not news to anybody. So as we kind of pivot our way eastward, you can just simply see how dry it's been across Missouri, western Illinois, eastern Iowa, and extending eastward all the way through the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. Even parts of the Southeast have been very dry around here recently. So the big question is what lies ahead over the next, say, 10 days or so. So if we look at the forecast precipitation anomaly from the 20th through the 25th, we are going to continue to see some nice rainfall across some of those areas that really have not seen much over the past month or so. Eastern Kansas, Missouri, all the way up into the Ohio and Mississippi Valley. Those areas are going to be the beneficiaries of this pattern that's going to take place from the 20th through the 25th. In terms of temperature anomalies during that period of time, you don't see much cold air anywhere across the country. And if you look at what's going on up in southern and central portions of Canada, you know that the pattern is completely not conducive to bringing any cold air south, because simply put, there is no cold air up there right now to bring southward. So warmer than average, I think, will be the rule. If we pivot from the 25th through the 30th, the pattern starts to dry out just a little bit. You see that right there across the Corn Belt and in the upper portion of the Midwest, the eastern portion of the northern high plains, a little bit of a dry signal right there, or at least drier than average for that period of time. And temperature-wise, average temperatures, I think, from southeast Kansas, Oklahoma, down to the Mississippi Valley, but that's really at the coldest. If it's not even that cold. The warmer than average feel to the whole United States, I think, will be the biggest deal going forward from a temperature standpoint from now right through the end of this month. And to be honest, we're probably going to kick off early October with that as well. Speaking of which, the latest Climate Prediction Center forecast dropped today for October, November, and December. And we'll look at the precipitation outlook, first of all, which is very La Nina-like. And during a La Nina, typically the southern tier of the United States is usually drier than average. The northern tier is at least average to wetter than average. And we're seeing some of that show up here with the above average precipitation in the forecast across Washington, Oregon, Idaho, western Montana, even quite a bit above average there across northwest Montana and northern Idaho. The have-nots will be the southern tier, right out of the Four Corners into the western high plains and the lower Mississippi River Valley. Those areas are at least have a pretty good likelihood to end up being below average in terms of precipitation. And from a temperature standpoint, again, I just don't see a whole lot of cold air coming south anytime soon. And this may be a pattern that lingers through fall and at least during the early part of this winter. And you can see with the temperature forecast here from the Climate Prediction Center, quite a bit above average over the southwest part of the country. And for that matter, the majority of the United States. I really don't think we're going to have a great opportunity to score a lot of cold air until probably as we head toward, say, January and into February. But we'll worry more about that later. In the meantime, that's kind of what we're thinking, not only in the short term, but also over the next 3 months or so.
Thanks, Brian. You can sign up for tailored forecasts for your farm at brianbledsoe.com. Well, when we come back, this isn't just any turf. The turf the Husker football team practices on is backed by science. The story behind the turf, that's next.
Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.